Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Stories That Inspire Us, the author series. So, of course, I have technically two amazing guests on today. And before I do my formal introduction, I just want to say that creativeness, especially when illustrations and stories start to come alive, are so important. And what better way to share with specifically a little girl in your life? And I was just telling my guests, my little grandniece, Princess Ray I need to get these books for her. They're just absolutely amazing. But without further ado, excuse me, I want to introduce my guest, Kristina Lucia Andrews. She is an artist, creator, and of course, the author of Curiously Curated Creations of Kristina Lucia, and of course, the mama bear, of course, of the Bella Lucia Book Series. Welcome, Kristina and Bella.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us here. We're so happy to be here with you.
Oh, I'm excited to have you on. You know, when we were talking before we even went live on the Wisdom audio app, and of course I am simulcasting through there, and we have a lot of people starting to hop on there. So thank you for being here today, all my live listeners. Before we went live, we were chatting a little bit about, things that are coming up for you, but more importantly, the development of Bella, because Bella really such a creative aspect of how your stories have evolved and really have come alive.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So when I first started, it's actually funny. I started my pivot. I started this journey without even realizing it. I was going through my own personal healing process, and I'm from an Italian family, and my great grandmother passed away when I was a little girl. However, people were always telling me, my mom included, that she was this amazing crocheter. And so when I was going through a breakup, and I was like, I need another activity. And I thought, why don't I learn to crochet? Mom's always complaining no one crochets anymore. And so my first instinct with crochet was to start making baby blankets. And then when I got injured, I had already started making loveys, I think at that point, which is the security blanket with basically the animal arms and the head. And I'll never forget it. It was my coworker and good friend Moses, him and his wife Frida were having their second baby. They got pregnant when I was injured. And so immediately I was like, oh, I have to do a blanket for the new baby. And ironically, their daughter got the first blanket I ever crocheted, which was a pink ombre. And now we all know, as aunts, as caregivers, you do it for one, you do it for the other. So I already was like, okay, you know what? I'm creating the same amount for Elisa as I am for the new baby, who's Monique. And I got this idea of creating a stuffed teddy bear for Elisa as a big sister gift, so that she would get a lovey and a stuffed animal. The new baby would get a blanket and a lovey. So that was the first stuffed animal I actually created. And then I was like, oh, this is great, because the kids already have blankets and have a lovey. I can create stuffed animals for them. It's be wonderful. So when I got laid off, I'd already been in a year of my pivot. I had, when I got laid off. And so I already was in that mode of finding a new career path. And someone looked at my work, the blankets, the loveys, and stuffed animals, because between my injury, between the pivot, between this outlet of creativity, I had this portfolio without even realizing it. And I remember a former coworker saying, you have a business here. And for whatever reason it was, I swear it was my grandma's spirit coming through me, I didn't doubt it for once. I didn't fight. I mean, I've always been very good about like going for it, but sometimes I realize if I doubt something, it's because I'm not ready. When you're ready, you're ready. And I realized I was ready. And she said, this is what I need. I want you to get A, B, and C for me. And I did. I created a spreadsheet, got that. And she said, okay, we need to get your costs down. And I started going online on Etsy and researching organic yarn. And I DM'd two different people. And I said, listen, if I'm willing to buy in bulk, would you be willing to negotiate a price for me? And I did. I got my costs down because I was buying at retail. That's why my cost was so high with my yarn. I did. And this former friend said, okay, we're in business now. And that's how it started. And the day I lost my mom was the day I got my first piece of mail addressed to this LLC. And the night I found out my mom was very ill, and I'm realizing how ill she was, I got this urge to go online and file for the LLC. And I was still unsure if it would be this or another idea I had as an entrepreneur. And I swear it was my grandma. Again, my grandma's namesake, for everyone who's wondering why I keep mentioning my grandma. That's why I'm a Lucia. My grandma was Lucia Bevilacqua Pisa. Everyone knew her as Lucy, Auntie Lucy, Sister Lucy, like Lucy, but she was a Lucia. She's a Lucia, and I was named after her. And that was a week before we lost our mom. And so the day my mom left this world is the day I got my piece of mail address to LLC, and I knew it was her and my grandmother saying, we need you to pursue this. And the months following, people gave me a hard time. They're like, you're crazy. How are you going to hand make all this stuff? It could be too expensive, blah, blah, blah. And I kept on saying, the characters are going to lead me to an answer. They may go away, but they're going to lead me to an answer. And sure enough, they did. They led me to start my blog. They actually led me to start my second blog, and they led me to realize I'm supposed to write my children's series, which I actually have 3 of my books with me right now. I'll show you those really quickly. These are, excuse me, I have them out of order. So these are the 3 of 15 that are coming out. I'm trying to hold them elegantly here.
Hold the fort here. 3 of 15?
3 of 15, yes.
Oh my gosh. All right, let's go over the names. I wanted to read them off so that anyone
Absolutely.
who's listening. So the first one, Bella's Big Girl Bad, and beautifully, oh my God, beautifully illustrated.
Thank
Wow.
you.
The second book, Bella Gets Dressed. Beautiful. Third book, Bella Learns to Read. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are 3 of 15. I have more coming out this year too. I have more coming next year, of course, so it's really exciting. And even and the irony too is Bella wasn't one of the original characters I created. Originally, I just had an elephant lovey. And this is the other piece of the puzzle too that I've learned is you do have to listen to your audience, because yes, there will be people out there that will tell you you're crazy, but there will be people that gravitate towards you. And it was a former networking contact who was working with me, and he cut me a deal. Like, he gave me something worked out where he was able to give me a great discount. So I was like, oh yeah, yes, I'll work with you. You're giving me this great discount. Let's do it. Well, I want to do something special for his daughter, and his daughter really liked the male elephant character. And at the time, he was just a lovey. And so I created a stuffy version of him. And once I created a stuffy version of him and realized, well, I need a girl elephant, I need a girl stuffy version, Bella came to be really quickly, as I already worked out my pattern. Like, I created a pattern of the boy elephants. All I had to do was add the feminine touches to create Bella. And it happened because a child gravitated towards a character, and I realized, wait, I need to do this. And then that's why Bella became a front runner, because people were gravitating towards the color scheme that I created for the lovey version of her. So I realized, oh, she needs to be the lead,
Wow.
And then the irony of it is that the name originally came from my friend's little girl, because my friend's little girl's name is Isabella. But as I started writing the books, I realized how much I was writing myself. And I also realized too, I can't not lie, but I can't hide it anymore. Bella has been my nickname for a very, very long time. My coaches call me Bella. All my Italian friends call me Bella. I'm in New York, so you get catcalled out all the time in New York City. People are like, it's New York, like whatever. Like, I've seen some really, like, the homeless man on the subway will do something, and I'm just like, oh, whatever, I just go back to my book. Like, we're just so jaded. Like, you just go with the flow. But when men don't know my name, they call me beautiful. And so Bella's been my nickname forever and a day, but I was too shy to say it. And I realized, no, I need to own this. Like, I need to own my inner child. I need to own this is my nickname. This is me. Like, the mom is my mother, it's like a beautiful 360 moment where you come back and you realize, no, I'm a grown woman. I can stand on my own 2 feet and say, this is me. This is who I am.
Wow, that it really is beautiful. And,
Yeah.
the fact that you're owning that, because that's really
Yeah.
the true soul inspiration
Mhm.
behind everything. I do want to go back to something that you said,
Sure.
because
Yeah.
I think when you're creative and when you made that decision, you said you didn't doubt it. And I think that's very like a huge epiphany, because a lot of people in that position, they feel that fear. They may feel that doubt. And you may know where you want to be, but it's the path along the way. Did you find that path challenging?
I did. And I did, because for a long, long time, because I was working in corporate and I'm also a competitive dancer. And so I was dancing in the evening, working on Wall Street during the day, leading a completely different, like double life. And for a while, there was a hot second where I thought I was going to be an analyst. Or I was going to be an event coordinator. And because I felt, this is what I'm supposed to do. How am I going to make a living on my creativity? And my mom, it was so funny because my mom, she's going to kill me for saying, I was like, I can just see her in heaven right now, shaking her head like, I can't believe she's saying this to people. But my mom loved going to, we're a big believer in angels in my family. So she would go to angel readers, not psychics, but angel readers. And she said, oh, this angel reader told me, you're going to figure it out. You're going to create your own business. Like, you're going to do it. You're going to do it. And I listened to her, like, okay, Ma, like, because I already knew in my heart I was going to do it, but you're absolutely spot on. It's the path. It's like, how am I going to get there? And when I originally met my career coach, Matilda, and sat down with her, I remember telling her I felt like I was going to pivot into another career, build my team and lift it and take it somewhere else, because that's what I saw the Wall Street guys do. And that's what I felt I needed to do. Even with my creativity, like for the longest time, I kept saying, I want to start a blog. I want to start a blog. And I had all these ideas and I didn't know, and I wasn't ready. And even in the course of my pivot, I think it's a matter of laying out the pieces on the puzzle and then figuring out where to put it in. Like, perfect examples is like that wanting to pivot. When I was injured, I was actually binge watching because I had never seen the series. It's not I won't say the series because I know people love it. It's not my jam, but I was watching it because all my coaches love it. My dance coaches love it. And I want to be able to understand the jokes. I was like, well, let me just watch it so I know what they're talking about. And one of the characters was debating quitting her job. And I thought, I could do that. I could do that. But then, like, wait, what would I do? And I kid you not, a few days later, my buddy Alex came over and said, what are you doing? And that's what got me going on my pivot. And then a couple of months later, through networking and trying things out, I met my career coach, Matilda. And even with Matilda in that first year of my pivot, before I got laid off, before I discovered, oh gosh, I was supposed to be an entrepreneur, had that other epiphany. One of our ideas was one of the ideas I was developing at that time, which wasn't working, is me creating coloring drawings, because I don't just draw my characters. I draw as a dancer. I love drawing dancers. I love drawing people. I do multiple mediums of art. And there was this idea. Now, fast forward to now, I blog about coloring. I talk about coloring all the time. I'm designing coloring books to go along with each of these books. And my marketing strategist, Melanie, who's amazing, we're actually laying out the groundwork of hosting a mommy and me, daddy and me coloring event, like for sometime this year. So sometimes you get these ideas, but they're going to happen. And I think it's a matter, like you said, of laying out the path. Like, if it doesn't happen right away, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. And I really am one of those people that believes it happens when it's supposed to.
Mhm.
And people have said it to me about my business. They said it to me about becoming a homeowner. They said it to me about my dancing. I'm like, no, I have no regrets. I had to go through these things in order to be here. Like I wouldn't be who I am.
And that is so spot on, because you went from, you had some type of an injury
Yes.
you didn't expect. And that really, I want to say that, and I'm sorry that whatever happened, happened. However, that led you on that path where you pivoted. And,
Absolutely.
I always refer back to my son's incident about a year and a half ago. You think you're going one way, but something in life dramatically happens and it pivots you in another direction.
Yeah.
And, people thought I was crazy for starting this third podcast. And I'm like, no, I was like, I was drawn to start this podcast. So thank you so much for sharing that, because that really, that was your fork in the road. It pivoted. You had
Yes.
to pivot,
Yeah,
and you did it
absolutely.
in such a creative manner.
Yeah, because I ruptured my Achilles tendon. And for anyone that's had that kind of injury, you can't put weight on it. And I was lucky enough where I was able to get an MRI within less than like a couple of days within of rupturing it. Like I was literally on crutches within an hour. So I was lucky that everything, and again, I swear it was my grandma. Like anyone who's listening that knows me and was lucky enough to know my grandmother, like, yep, that was Lucy. That's Lucy, like, like putting this in there to like make things happen right. And it made me pause. And you're absolutely right. It made me pause. It made me rethink. And I remember being on the examination table, like hobbling into City MD, the urgent care in my area, just sitting there on the table, and them telling me it was my Achilles. And the tears started falling. And the tears started falling because my coach was in town a week later. And I was so upset about missing my coaching. Like I wasn't worried about how am I going to get to work? How am I going to get home? I was crying about my dancing. And that was a huge moment too of realizing like dance and my art are so important to me, and I can't apologize for that anymore. I can't hide that. This is who I am. I'm a dancer, I'm an artist, I'm a creator. Like I should be doing something that celebrates this and that allows me to practice daily and not have to hide the fact that I'm running out the studio, running out of that office to go to lessons, etc. And it was really beautiful. And another way too, like if you're thinking, oh, okay, she cried when she had the injury, but I actually went in the studio the day of my surgery so I could say hello to my coach. And I actually went in with crutches just so I could like say hello and have like a 5-minute catch up with my coach. Like that's how much I love to dance. And that's how much my coach means to me. And honestly, my creativity saved me because when I was sitting there on that, I remember that day before I went in the studio, before I went to surgery, thinking, what am I going to do? Because I'm a New Yorker. I have a busy life. Like I have a busy social life too. I'm not one to just sit around and binge. Like I have to be really, really, really tired. Like if I have a binge day, it's because I'm exhausted and mentally and physically, I can't do anything else. And like, yes, it happens, but it's not like I'll have an off day. It always like my body kind of dictates it. It's not my mind. And I remember thinking, what am I going to do? And I thought, oh, I have this blanket, the crochet blanket that I haven't finished yet. Let me work on that. And it's so ironic because I wasn't even realizing it. I was creating this portfolio that friend saw a year later and was like, this is what you need to do. And ironically, crochet has actually, because I'm now a knitter as well. I knit baby sweaters, I knit scarves. So that's the thing with creativity, and that does creativity. I want to limit it to that because like I realize like I have a lot of family members and friends that are not creative, and they joke with me. They're like, I'll be like, oh, it's so easy, and they'll be like, okay, Kristina, for you it's easy, for us it's not. You need to like break it down a little bit more. Like you need to you need to work with us here.
Oh my,
It's like anything. I think once you hit your sweet spot, you hit what works for you.
Mhm.
you will, it's like Pandora's box, but in a beautiful, magical, enriching way. And it really is amazing.
Wow. And I want to ask you a question. It's somewhat off topic,
No, no worries. Yeah.
but you're on Wall Street during the day and then you go dancing at night. Like, how does that happen?
So I'm from a family where both immediate and extended, everyone's either a teacher, a lawyer, or an engineer. And then there's me. And I realize now it was my longing to belong. And I'm an overachiever by nature. I always have and I always will be. And I remember when I was 10 years old, I took one look at New York and said, Mom and Dad, I'm going to live here. And I'm from a rural farm town in Massachusetts. Like, I mean, rural, like one rail traffic light, like waking up with the roosters, rural, like totally not New York City. When I was 18, I applied to one school in Massachusetts, and then the other schools all were in New York. And when I was 22 and getting ready to graduate, I told my mom and dad I want to stay here. And I already knew that. I already been saying it for years, but now that, like, I mean, it's like the 11th hour, I'm like, nope, I'm staying here. And my mom was very clear with me, like, well, you got to figure it out. You have to figure this out. Like, if you're not coming home, you need to figure it out. And so I need to make a living. And that's how I kept finding my ways into other jobs. And even though when I got laid, when I went to my second job out of school, it was property development, and I was going back to school for my second degree in interior design, which I did finish and get. I thought, oh, I'll do interior design. But then I found my way back into dancing during that time. I was like, well, interior design is tricky. It's a beautiful industry, but quite frankly, it's a battle, at least my understanding. And please don't quote me on this. Like, I haven't been in the business. It's been a long time since I've interacted with my friends in that space. But my understanding is that, from what I took from it, is that you're always going to be with the architects, because the architect is building the building, and technically they can do a lot of what the interior designer does. Like, interior design is not just picking out wall colors and furniture. Like, interior design is actually building the walls, like creating a layout. Like, it's actually more complex than what meets the eye, and also too, I talked to plateau and whatnot. So I thought, well, maybe this isn't for me. And that was between and then I got laid off in my property development job. And I thought, well, maybe I will do interior design. Maybe I will do marketing. And I wasn't getting bites. And so when I got my interview on Wall Street, they kept inviting me back. And I remember in one of the interviews being told about this big conference, which I actually ended up having a strong role in the planning of it, like pretty quickly. I actually was in charge of the speaker grid, of the layout, et cetera. Like, I was in planning meetings and whatnot, and I got into planning of other events, and I was plateauing. Again, there was nowhere to grow. But that was why I felt like, oh, I could do this. And then I thought, oh, I could be an analyst. I could do this for a minute. But again, it was that, for me, looking back on talking to you about it right now, I realized it was imposter syndrome. It was this me apologizing for being a creative. And then when I really started my own personal healing journey, healing from traumas, healing from things that I had been burying, I realized I was so used to not belonging that I was able to be in careers that I didn't belong in as well. And when I realized that, I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this. Like, I didn't want to do it. I stopped doing it in my personal life. And I realized, I don't want to do this in my work life either. I want to be who I am. I want to be who I am. And I realized all those doors that closed on me, everything from losing reports that I was writing, like, for one reason or another, they said, well, you're an admin. You're an executive assistant. You can't do this. Like, it has to be someone that's licensed, or an event where we're not going to do this event again. Like, it's not within our budget, or the Christmas party that I planned beautifully, but then my boss walks in and takes it over, even though I did everything to a T. And then the following years, everyone said, no, we're going to do it. And they never did as good a job as me. I'm just going to say that because I'm no longer there, but I rocked it out, and people got upset about it. But I realize now it was my grandma. It was my grandma closing those doors on me because she knew I didn't belong there. And that was her way of guiding me to that open door at the end of the hallway, which is what I'm doing right now. And even now, like, I'm not saying doors don't close, because they do, but I realize when doors close, whether it's me pitching to a podcast and not getting it, or me pitching to the press and not getting, and my pitch not getting picked up, I realize grandma has the door open for me, and she's guiding me. And I do believe my mom's there too. I believe both of them are up in heaven right now, guiding me there. And the reason why I keep saying my grandma first is, if you knew my mom, my mom always said to me, did you thank your grandmother? Did you thank your grandmother? And this is her mom, by the way, too. So I should disclose that. It's an Italian thing. You respect your elders.
Oh, yes, we do. Yes, we do. You know, when you said, the door's closing, but the door is also opened.
Yes.
What would you say to someone who maybe in that same kind of part in their life where some doors are closing and they just want to bust through that door? What is a word of advice that you can share about your journey that maybe it's something that you always go back to?
So when I left, I was actually with a different team when I discovered that I was going to write my children's series. And again, doors were closing. And it was New Year's. I prepped this email and I sent it for the day after New Year's Day, and said I didn't want to work with them, and they did not take kindly to it. And I knew it was the right decision based on what they did. And then the months following that, I thought I knew I needed to find a good editor. Like, I know I'm a good writer, but I really believe strongly in having an editor when it comes to writing books, and a good one that gets you. And I remember emailing and thinking, okay, I need a good editor. I need marketing. Let me figure out my editor. Let me keep trying to get on a podcast. Let me try to get speaking engagements. And I was at a networking event that my friend Julie invited me to. And when the man hosting it said, I'm connected to people with speaking engagements. So I emailed him, and I forget, it was this day in March. And I wrote to him and I said, I'm looking for speaking engagements. I would love to speak to you about that. And he said right out, I'm not the right fit for you, and I wish you the best luck. And I remember feeling that ground, for lack of a better word, ground zero moment, and crying. And I thought, this is happening because you're supposed to be working with somebody else. It's the same thing with leaving my old team. Like, it wasn't an easy decision leaving them, but I knew it wasn't what I wanted. And I fought myself for a long time for leaving. And people were saying, why aren't you leaving? Why aren't you leaving? I'm like, no, let me try. And then I realized, I hit my limit, and I was like, I can't keep doing this. It's toxic. It's not healthy. And I mourned that loss. And so that bottom moment was accumulation of that. But then a month later, it was Good Friday, and I was going to my family the following day, and I was on the phone with my friend Megan, and she had written a book. And I asked her, I'm a big believer in asking people, tell me your story.
Mm-hmm.
Let me listen to what you're doing, because it's not about, I have to talk to this person no, how did you do it? And when I picked up from her, okay, she had community. She kept putting what she wanted out there. And then in that call, she said, have you talked to Susan yet? And Susan Crossman, my editor, we actually spoke at a summit earlier that year, and I had it in my notes to reach out to her, but for one reason or another, I hadn't reached out to her yet. And I was like, oh gosh, that's right, Susan, I meant to reach out to Susan. And I did. And Susan and I had a call, and I hired her as my editor, and she's been my editor ever since. And also, I went to her virtual summit before we had that meeting. And I'm an overachiever, and this is the Wall Street girl in me. This is what I learned from Wall Street. You go into a conference, you get the agenda in advance, you do your research, you map out who you want to see, who you want to connect with. One of the people that I went to a session for was Melanie, my marketing strategist. And that was a huge pivot in that was a huge door opening. But I realized by this man telling me no, it kept me walking down that hall. And it's completely normal to still want to break through the door. And if that's how you're feeling, you need to let yourself feel those feelings. Like, that's totally normal. But what I can say is that by embracing those negative feelings, letting them process, letting them get out of you, but also opening your heart to your higher power and knowing that they know what you really want, they are going to guide you to where you want. And the other beautiful thing that happened from that moment, like, so Megan said, reach out to Susan, well, the following day, this is all a month after that ground zero moment. So that's why I'm saying, like, there is like beautiful, you can only go up. You can only go up from those moments where you feel like, God, this is the worst that can happen. I was talking to a fellow author friend of mine, and she told me the backstory of her last name. And I was really inspired by it. And I was on the train out to visit my sister and my family, and listening to my friends tell me about her name, I got inspired. And I was at my sister's, and it was her, me, and my nephew, her son. And I said to her, Laura, I'm really considering taking Mom's maiden name as my pen name. So my legal name is Kristina Lucia Andrews. However, my pen last name is Pisa. That's my mom's maiden name. And that was a really beautiful moment in my writing journey. It was a beautiful moment in relationship with my sister. And I'm very grateful Laura was the first person I told that, because names to me are very personal, and I wanted her to know, and her to know where my thought was coming. And I'm really proud that I'm my grandma's namesake, but I'm also proud that I found a way to incorporate my mom in the journey as well. Like, I'm proud of that, because one of our biggest fights, like my entire life, it was our biggest fight. She wanted me to be a teacher. And I kept telling her, no, mom, no. Or I say, Ma, I'm like, Ma, no, like, stop it. And other family friends and family members would gang up on me too, and be like, well, just listen to your mother. Why wouldn't you do that? I'm like, I'm not a teacher personality, people. I adore teachers. They're amazing. But honestly, I believe not everyone is meant to be certain things. And, we need to be open and accept that. So for people that are, I get how my heart goes out to you. I know. I can honestly, sincerely say, I know how hard it is when you just want that door to open and it's not a budget. But I can promise you, if you're willing to open your heart and your soul, and yes, work through those negative feelings, feel those feelings, because you're allowed to feel them, you're human. But at the same time, I promise you, it's closing, the better door is opening. And it will open. It may take time. It may not happen as quickly as a month. Like, quite frankly, I say a month, but it was actually like a decade and change. Like, for me, like, when I think about my journey, it's been a long, long journey. And I'm not even that old. Like, I'm only 40. And so I feel like I'm only at the beginning of my road in life and my career. And I realize it's not the first time I'm going to hit a ground zero either. Like, I realize, like, I'm not immune to them. Like, they are going to happen. There are going to be moments, because for each of us, those bottom outs are, but I think the thing is, once you bottom out and you recognize what it is, when you bottom out again, that's what I feel the importance is understanding, okay, this is, for lack of a better word, this sucks. This is awful, but I can get through this. I can survive this. Like, I have the tools. I'm going to warn it. I'm going to figure it out. Like, it's going to be okay. Like, I'm going to make this work. And I promise you it will happen. If you believe in yourself and you have others that believe in you, I promise you it's going to work out.
I love how you describe that, because, obviously you're sharing that from a very personal and sacred space. And I think a lot of times when we hear strategies, or this, as you mentioned, the story, someone's story, we can relate in a way and say, and maybe look back at something and say, okay, that, as you said, that really kind of sucked.
Yeah.
But here are the things that I did on my path to get me where I need to go. And that in itself is such a beautiful thing. And that is like almost like the ground floor of the stepping stones. Like, okay, I may not be at the door yet, but damn, I'm getting close.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I really believe our higher powers, like I'm Catholic, so in my case, it's God. I really believe when you have faith in your higher power, in God, she knows where you want to be,
Mhm.
and they will get you there, and I hear it more and more. And sometimes, like, there are still things in my life that I'm wishing for and I'm dreaming of, and I'll let that critical voice, that critical parent come out. And again, that's another thing too I've learned in my healing journey, is living in harmony with my inner child and my critical parent. And my inner child does tend to come out a lot because I am a creative, like I am very imaginative. I do have a very natural sense of faith. However, that sense of doubt, that critical parent come out. I'm like, Kristina, stop it. No, like this is going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen when you're supposed to happen. And also, I can't help but feel it's a blessing that things are happening to me the way they want. Like, 'cause sometimes like I get nervous and I'm like, oh, well, why are you nervous? Okay, well, if I had this and this in my life set up, like I wouldn't be nervous. I'm like, no, you need to do the stuff you're doing. So when these factors come in, you're ready for them. Like, I think of things I want in my personal life, and I'm like, well, there are certain things you're learning on your healing journey that you need to have before these other factors come in. And even with my business, like I remind myself, like it's a matter of building it layer by layer. And like anything else, like for example, like I'll just throw a personal example out there. Like I want to be married and I want kids. And something I'm realizing, and my editor, actually, my editor, Susan Crossman, who's amazing. Like if anyone out there is looking to write a book, whether it's children's memoir, fiction, etc., like she's amazing. Like I can't speak highly enough about my editor. And she's also an author herself, working on her 6th book. Susan, I apologize if I scribbled the number, but she's amazing. I love her. But anywho, she labeled me, not labeled, but she pointed out to me, she's like, you are a capital W writer. And I was like, what does that mean? And she said, you're very sensitive. You have a great sense of imagination. And you're a writer in that you are translating things for people. And it's a gift. But at the same time, there's fewer of us. And so when I think of that in my personal life, even as like friendships come on in my life and I'm meeting people and it's not working out, I remind myself, it's okay, because God is getting you where you need to be to find the right person that will be with you. Because again, like I was saying to Janice, because I was a few minutes late because I was wrapping up another recording, and one of the things we were talking about is we always see, it's very easy to see the glamour. What people don't always see, and I talked to other authors that say that shared the same thing. Like as an illustrator, like I just wrapped up illustrations for book 7. So my kitchen table is now clean, but there are weeks that I don't have a kitchen table. It's covered with my art supplies, and I'm OCD. Like I like a clean house. But there also are many nights where I'm up till 2 a.m. working, and like I'm like, go, go, go. Or there are things that I put off because I'm like, wait, I need to get this done for my business. So there are a lot of closed doors along the way till you find the right open ones. And so it is important to understand it's not just glitz and glamour. There is a lot of hard work, but it's worth it. Like I do believe it's worth it. And, one of the biggest things that I'm learning now is ignoring the negative feelings that come at me. Like right now is a beautiful moment because you're graciously having me here. I'm sensing your excitement for what I'm doing, your support for what I'm doing. But I've also had the opposite come at me. I've also had people get cagey because I'm a children's author, because I'm writing a book. And I more often than not, when I'm at a cocktail hour or I'm socializing in a group gathering, it's like, oh, I've always wanted to write a book. Oh yeah, I've always wanted to do this. Or it's like that, why can you do it and I can't? But they're not also considering all the work behind it, but also The other thing I find too that I have to let go of is when people do tell me I want to write a book, and my editor, Susan, my marketing strategist, Melanie, they have virtual gatherings, they have virtual summits, and they have amazing resources and amazing ways to connect with them. And I can tell you how many times I forwarded invitations to Melanie's parties or Susan's workshops, and I get oh, I'm too busy. Oh, I can't make it. And I'm learning, Kristina, let it go. They basically, I held up my hand and they walked away. I'm like, it's okay. It's back to the door closing analogy that we were just talking about. It's okay. It's their journey. It's not yours. You did your good deed. Go on. It's okay. It's all right. That's all you can do, because some people, it is what it is, you know what I mean? But yeah, it is I wouldn't trade this journey for anything. And I honestly believe I'm only at the cusp of it. Like I keep on joking because my nephew's too. And I do believe what you said to me before we start recording, that like it is going to blow up. And so that's why I'm like being patient, making sure I'm doing everything I need to do now and whatnot. And I keep on joking that my nephew is going to go into kindergarten and be like, yeah, my aunt was on TV last night. And his teacher's going to be like, wait, your aunt's Kristina Lucia? Wait, what? He's going to be like, yeah, what's the big deal? Because this is his norm. Like Aunt Kristina as an author, illustrator, creator, like I knit around him, I crochet around him. Like this is his norm. This is what I do. It's really amazing. It's really beautiful.
That really is amazing and beautiful. And thank you so much for sharing that, because I really believe that the healing journey is part of the path that gets you to that destination.
Absolutely.
As I'm finding out every day, of course. Kristina, do you have time to maybe we can invite one of our guests that is currently listening on the Wisdom Audio app?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And so, Wisdom listeners, again, thank you all so much for being here today. We have time for one guest to come up. If you'd like to ask Kristina some questions about Bella and the Bella Lucia Book Series. The books, and I know that you people who are just listening cannot see, of course, the books that you showed up, and they can't see Bella. But as we're waiting for someone to come up to the stage, can you tell us where our viewers and listeners can connect with you further?
Absolutely. So I do have a website, www.cccokl.com. And I also have Instagram as well and Facebook. I'm most active on Instagram and my website. I do have a gift for your audience. I'll make sure I send you the link to it. I always create coloring drawings, so I would love to share that with your audience.
Wow.
And
Thank
I
you.
do put out a newsletter where I always share. So even after you're on my email list, you always have access to all the freebies, I promise you. And I have a page on my website, so if you ever want to reprint something, you have access to it. But I write 2 different blogs and do other things, and I'll be sharing announcements about the books. Like we're waiting on some back end stuff to be set before we officially announce certain things, but like having the samples to show you and your audience is amazing. Like it's so great to be able to share that.
Oh my gosh, that is so wonderful. I think, excuse me, the story behind the story, and when you hear about someone's journey is breathtaking in so many different ways, because you learn that through the struggles, that through the pivots, through literally the pain, that can really bring you and direct you in a way where you need to go, with maybe not at the time fully realizing its full potential. And yes, I did say to you before we started to officially record, look out, Kristina Lucia. It's going to be amazing. I am so excited for you, so excited for the Bella Lucia book series. And what do you see or maybe there's something on your agenda or something on your goal list that's maybe like, in your opinion, like it's huge. What would that thing be?
My huge thing is the books going to animation. And that part of the reason why it's huge for me is I'm not an animator. Like that's a different type of art. It's not a style of art that I'm comfortable with. Like it's not my jam. Like I'm an artist, but like animation is a different animal, different beast. So that's a big thing for me, because working with an animator, communicating further what I want, even though obviously they'll have a wealth of illustrations, but there are a lot of questions you need to ask when it goes to animation. And I'm not an engineer personality, because animation is not engineering, but the reason why I'm using the engineer analogy or reference is that how Bella walks, like what's her voice like, how does she move her head, like what's
Wow.
the nuance of her. Like you think of Belle and Disney's Beauty and the Beast, how Paige O'Hara, she had her hair longer at the time, and so she would pull away a little wisp of hair. That's how the animator got the idea for Belle to brush away that little wisp of hair. So that would be a big thing for me. The other reason why it's a big thing is I'm actually going to be recording my audiobooks for ideally the whole series by the end of this year, as long as I'm able to write and edit everything else, the last 5 books, by the end of this year, which knowing me will happen because it's me. But for the animation though, I have already voiced this several times. I want to pull a Hitchcock, meaning Hitchcock trained his audience that we all look for him. He makes that cameo. So I want to make a voice cameo in every animation episode, because I don't think I should be a main character, because I'm already the face. With Bella, like you see my face all the time, you know my voice, like on the audiobook, I write, I illustrate, I do so much. And I think the way to grow my creativity is to allow other creators to come in. And obviously there is that sharing of ideas, there is that taking it a step further, but at the same time also allowing them to add their touches in that way. And so that's when it comes to vocals, I do feel I shouldn't be a main character, but I want to be a cameo character. So meaning I could be the post lady, or I could be the janitor, or I could be the store clerk. And I just have this image of my nephew and all the other kiddos in my life. I'm like, where's Aunt Christina's voice? Where is she today?
Oh my gosh. Now, when you say animation, and I'm kind of picturing like a cartoon. So is that where the animation is leading to? Like
Yes, yeah, like a cartoon. Yeah, like a cartoon. But
series?
I if I had it my way, like, and I realize this is also something else, like I'll have to figure out when the time comes. I'm in love with old school animation, like classic Walt Disney. I don't, and that's why too, I yes, because of my art degrees, yes, I've done art on the computer. I don't like computerized art. That's just me personally. I'm very old school. Like, give me my pen and paper, give me my pencil, give me my watercolors. Like, there's something about working directly with the paper, working directly with the water and the paints. And also too, I feel like also from the story point of view, life doesn't have a backup system. Life doesn't have an undo. So when you're drawing painting with watercolor, you learn to work through your mistakes. And the thing with watercolor that I find so beautiful is you can't control it. Like, you can't control how much water gets on your brush. Like, yes, you learn, like, yes, after years and years of drawing and illustrating, I have a good understanding, but there are times where there's not enough paint on my brush, or there's a little too much water or a little less water, but you work with it. You work in harmony with the paints, because the reality is you can't control the paints as much as you want to. You can't control it. And I feel like life is the same way. And it actually loops back, I feel, to what we talked to about, like trying to like break down that locked door when we realize we can't control things. And I feel like art, for me at least, creativity is a beautiful way of that. You can't control it. There are certain limitations, but if you're willing to work with those limitations, if you're willing to work with those those moments, beautiful things happen, beautiful discoveries happen, and it's really amazing.
Yeah, I think we just froze up momentarily. I'm just gonna do a little check here on
No worries.
connections. Okay, I think I'm back.
Okay.
I want to say to our listeners on wisdom, I did see somebody come up at the last minute and then it went away. So I do apologize for that. I was in the moment listening and did not catch that. So whoever came up, please accept my apologies on that. Wow, this has been so incredibly amazing.
Thank you.
I hope that you will definitely consider coming back.
Absolutely. I would love to come back. Amazing. Yes.
Wonderful. Wonderful. One final question. You have 15 books coming out.
Mhm.
I just want to also point out there's another book that I feel that you need to write.
Go ahead, please. No, no, yeah, please, I want to hear, yeah.
It's about your journey.
Yeah, yeah. So that's it's actually funny, because I already have talked to my editor, Susan, and my publishing agent, Susie, about this. And of course, Melanie, my marketing strategist as well. Because that's the thing too, is like everyone has different roles in the puzzle, in the machine, and you want to make sure everyone's informed. And so that along with these books, there will also be coloring activity books coming out. I actually am laying the groundwork. I do want to write a cookbook. That's another idea I've had for years, that like now that I have these books, it makes sense. Another idea for a book. So my second blog is Diaries of Bella Lucia, which is a child version of myself and then my mom's perspective of things. And I would
Oh,
like to put those in the book. But like I agree with you. I think I do need to write my own memoir of my journeys and what I've learned. And, because I'm a traveler, I'm a New Yorker, I'm a dancer, like, and I do believe I've grown from my experiences. Like I look back at my life and I realize I have been through a lot of trauma that I've chosen to heal from gratefully. I do respect that the people that inflicted that trauma on me were doing the best with what they had. They weren't doing it to deliberately hurt me. It was unfortunate, but by making the choice to heal from it, it led me to create Bella. It led me to write these books. I realized how important communication and feelings are. And because I've made this journey, my writing, my art, my dancing has gone to greater heights. It has like arranged, like something I can share really quickly is my mom always promised me we travel together. And for one reason or another, it never worked out. And unfortunately, she wasn't well at certain points, and it made it difficult for us to travel together for various reasons. So I had to table it. And it was last year, because I haven't planned my trips for this year yet. So last year I had this idea. I wanted to go to Greece, and I think this year I'll go to Greece, like, because I haven't been yet. And I got this inkling in my head. I'm like, Cinque Terre, Cinque Terre. I'm like, I need to go to Cinque Terre. And so I looked up what's near Cinque Terre in Italy and found Florence. I hadn't done Florence yet. So I did. I booked a trip last August where I went to Florence and Cinque Terre, and I was walking to the Piazza on the first night. And I thought, oh my God, Mom finally kept her promise to me. We were on a trip together. And it was so beautiful because all the anxieties and things she was suffering from in this life, she's rid of. So she was able to do everything with me in Florence and Cinque Terre. I knew grandma was there too. And the funny thing too, so I was in Florence. I went shopping for one of my accessories, which they had. And it's always a gamble when you're shopping for something very specific. We all know that, right? And I heard my mom's voice in my head. That was your grandmother. I don't do shopping. You and your grandmother took you shopping, not me. Like, don't drag me into this. But it was really beautiful. And I feel without this healing, I wouldn't be in a space to do the work that I'm doing. And I wouldn't be in a space because, like I said before, a lot of doors do close on you. And some days it's harder than others to be like, okay, scratch that, like, let me like pick myself up and keep walking down the road. Sometimes you need more time than others, but this healing work has allowed me to know, okay, today's a bad day, but I'm going to have a better day tomorrow. I'm going to find my way to something better. It's going to be okay.
Oh, and it absolutely is okay. My gosh, from working full time on Wall Street, dancing to artist, creator, author of curiously curated creations of Kristina Lucia, the creator of Bella Lucia Book Series. My gosh, these are the stories that inspire us. Kristina, thank you. And Bella, thank you so much for being here today. Remember, everyone, the importance of your story. One door may close, many doors may close, but you know what? You will get through it because those are the stepping stones of the story that will inspire you. My name is Janice Malillo, the host of Stories That Inspire Us / the author series. Remember, if you have a story to share, please feel free to go to my website and register as a guest. Wow. We hope to see you again real soon. And thank you again, Wisdom. Always such a pleasure to see so many familiar names. Thank you again, Kristina. We'll see you again. Bye for now.